All right, welcome back, everyone. This is Dom for another episode of Dom in Space. As you can tell in the foreground for you guys, I actually sped up most of this video. This is, of course, me talking after I've recorded it and edited it all the way down. Last episode was quite a long time ago, and just a little bit of a synopsis there. We landed on the moon with a tank full of fuel and a rover for our moon exploration missions. And in the video, you guys will be watching me construct the Kerbal lander, so a lander for our Kerbals to get down to the surface of the moon, or one of our Kerbals at least. And yeah, that's basically what it is. So this is just me kind of thinking maybe the can would be fun to watch. I don't know. It didn't really matter. So I ended up just going back to the old design there. I left all of the sounds in, so it sounds pretty cool at 4 times speed. It's pretty fun. It sounds like me clicking, but it's actually not, because you can't hear any of the external stuff. It's actually the in-game sound sped up pretty fast. So basically there's going to be a main launch stage, which I'm building now. And what we saw before was the landing stage. The main launch stage will be dropped off as we need it after we run out of fuel and stuff. So the point of these missions is to actually get all the science of the moon in one trip. One trip for a Kerbal, so you don't need to bring that Kerbal back and forth to the moon. Like we've been doing with like I did with the Minmus missions. I've been spending a lot more time in the other series, so it's been quite a while since I've played basically vanilla KSP. We're almost done here. We're going to start launching it, and we'll have a nice little seamless transition, hopefully. I did forget to add a fuel line in here, and in between the scenes I added the fuel lines in. Oh, and I had forgotten to put the solar panels on before I named it. So we're just about to launch this thing up to the moon, and we're going to aim for our last landing site, where we landed before. It's very weird not doing this actively. It's actually a lot easier to concentrate on what I'm speaking of. There we go. Quite loud. Oh, I can adjust that, so it's not loud. So we are bringing Jebediah up to the moon with the Moonlander and return vehicle. Now, the return vehicle needs to be very accessible, and that's the reason why I put that big long ladder on it. We want it to be accessible at all times so that we can take all of the experiments that we do out of our rover vehicle and put it into the capsule there every single time we return back home, just so we don't have to carry, I think there's 11 biomes on the moon. Don't quote me on this. Might be 8 biomes on the moon. But, so we don't have to go to all 8 biomes. I don't know. Basically, we don't want to have 8 copies of the same experiment. That's kind of the point of this. So we don't have to bring up 8 thermometers, 8 of these. So we can take the experiments out and store them in the capsule on the way home. So we are doing a standard asparagus staging here, and we're just gonna stay in this view as long as possible. That's just one thing I like to do. I've learned that from having Kerbal Engineer, it's a much better experience to watch the launch than just the map view with all the lines expanding and stuff. But we do have to go to the map view very soon. There goes our second stage there. This thing is very, very maneuverable, and it stayed right on target for the entire flight, really. Here we go, back to the map view. I have SAS units on the craft at both endpoints. So there's one all the way up by the command pod, and there's also one all the way at the bottom near the nozzle. And that helps us rotate and keep us on target as best as possible. During flight, though, with all the other boosters that we had before, I'm checking my resources here. We're trying to get into a nice low orbit. Yeah, so with all the other boosters on before, I was kind of depending on the gimbal of the engines to rotate it because there wasn't enough torque from just those two modules. So the main engine is the non-gimbal version, and the boosters that we had asparagus staged were the gimbling versions. We're just about we're trying to keep our Apple apps somewhere below 80-ish. I just want to have a nice efficient orbit here. It has to be relatively circular, just barely above the atmosphere of Kerbin, so Jebediah can make it to the moon. As you can tell, also the audio quality is probably much higher with me recording afterwards. This has actually been quite a process, and I do like doing this process, actually. Here we go, we lost our boosters. This is really tricky here. I was like, oh no, they're going to hit me, so I last second hit the accelerator, and we've just kind of boosted out of them so they wouldn't hit us or explode or anything. It's kind of tricky there. So yeah, the audio quality seems to be a little bit higher because Fraps doesn't seem to record the audio very well, at least on the microphones. It records the in-game audio quite well. Right now I'm actually using a separate audio free program for the audio mixing and those kinds of things. I've done it in previous videos as well, and I do it on the weekly drive. I use the same program for that, not to record my voice, but to mix the music in and stuff. So we are heading up to as close as we want to get to the Perry apps here, or sorry, Apple apps here, and we're going to try to round out our orbit around Kerbin. This is a standard maneuver, trying to keep our time to Apple apps quite low, so just so we are being as efficient as possible. And I don't want to bring my Apple apps too low, so and as you can tell, I'm burning below the horizon. If you look down at the gimbal ball there, not gimbal ball, whatever, the nav ball. But as you can tell, our Apple apps is now rising, so all has to do with the normal orbital mechanics. So I speed up and get back to the Apple apps and do one final little push burn here, and then we will make a node to go to the moon, or Mun. There's no science instruments on this craft. The sole intention of this craft is to just bring Jeb up, so that he can get on the rover, or if we ever have to redesign it, which I have a feeling we are going to need to do that very, very soon. We might have to bring up a separate rover and make sure that it docks with the tank right and all that stuff. Here goes our maneuver node. But yeah, so the main goal is just to bring Jeb up, and then we can bring whatever we need separately. But this also is the return capsule. So this is not only going to land on the moon, but it's going to leave the moon and bring Jeb home. So there's a landing stage, which has the landing gear on it. And above it, there is the escape or return stage to Earth, or Kerbin. Not exactly sure if I'm going to be leaving the landing stage behind, mostly because I know that I have way too much fuel on this whole thing. So I'm going to be able to use the large booster rocket, the pusher rocket, to get to the moon, to break on the moon, and to almost land. I could probably actually have enough fuel to land on the nozzle of the rocket without even staging anymore. But I'm going to choose not to do that, just because I had designed the top stage. It's really dark, I do apologize. I designed the top stage to be accessible by a ladder, so that we can go up and put the science experiments up there. It's very dark. We're going to be, yeah, there he goes. Jump into the map soon. So I'm not really sure if I'm going to be bringing the landing stage back with me. I do have to do a little bit of calculations to see if I have enough delta V in just that top stage. I didn't do any of the calculations, so I knew I would have enough fuel to if I brought the landing stage back with me. Basically, what I need to make sure is that I have enough fuel to make it from the moon to just under the Kerbin's atmosphere, so I can do a nice soft entry. And I don't have mods on this, so there's no deadly re-entry or anything like that. And I actually do an overburn here, and we end up colliding on a collision course with the moon, which we don't want. So I'm going to go ahead and flip the craft around and bring our periaps on our projected path to the moon to about, I think it's 23 kilometers here. As you can tell, it's kind of fidgeting if you can look up at the top of the screen. That's just because the SAS is kind of kicking it. Yeah, it's 26, 27 kilometers above the moon, which is perfect for making a nice landing. I'm checking on our probes here. They're nowhere close to their destinations. In between episodes, I renamed the Eve probe, which we didn't name in the episode itself. So it's named to Eve probe. What else would it be named to? Here we go. We're getting up to the moon here. I'm very excited for those probes to reach their destination, though. We're going to have a lot of science from those. I'm not expecting a huge amount, but I'm expecting to have a decent amount. So, as you can tell, our landing site is, from the last episode, it's just about right on the equator of the moon. So I'm going to do a correction burn here and set it up on the with a node to get just about a nice equatorial orbit, so that our orbital path follows the equator. That's what I meant by equatorial orbit there. I end up having to do kind of some manual burning later on to correct our trajectory to our target. But this is the best way that I have found to do it, is to burn early, use a lot less fuel. I really need to worry about it in this situation. There we go. And I'm not going to wait till the actual time. I'm just going to do it now because it's going to give me a very, very similar result, whether or not I do it at the time of the burn or not. Boop, boop. Cool. So it's just about equatorial, but the reasoning why I left it a little bit higher is because our landing site is a little bit higher than the equator on the moon. And I am now setting up a node for a circularized orbit around the moon. And this is going to allow us to get, if we miss on our first pass, we'll be able to survive an orbit around the moon. And it looks like it's only 271 meters per second of delta V, which this rocket definitely has left in it. So we're going to have plenty of fuel for our braking maneuver as well. As soon as I do this circularized burn here, we're going to get to a burn node. We're going to make another node to land near the our landing site, so near our probe, our rover and tank there. So here we go, bringing down our apps. So our next burn will bring us to a crash course into the moon in a kind of the general direction of the rover, and we're going to set that one up right about now, I'm pretty sure. And I actually do an F5 later on, and we're going to get to that cutscene very soon. I actually do an F5 just in case, and I quit recording. I just stopped the recording and started it again, like a second or two later. I actually did this on the first try, which is really interesting. I did an F5 just in case we, killed Jeb, and I don't want to kill Jeb. So there we go. There's our node set up, and you put it a little bit further past, and that's, well, at least I do, put a little bit further past our objective, and I don't really have to worry about the moon rotating too much, because it does one full rotation every single time it orbits the planet. So every orbit, it does one rotation, so I think it takes like a day and 14 hours. So the speed of the surface of the moon is very, very slow in this situation. So I'm not really worried about the the moon moving. There goes our scene change there. We're going to go ahead and just kind of pitch over to our burn node so that we are on a course to our target. I don't actually set the target vector at all during this mission. I want to kind of do it by eye. And also the target vector has always confused me. I'm not really the best person at this game. So you set it a little bit further away from the target so you can do a lateral velocity break, so that you're more or less, as soon as you get over your target, you don't want to be moving left or right with respect to it. You only want to move up and down, so you land vertically. At least that's how I like to do it. There's probably different ways as well, with like ridiculous suicide burns. And we're just about to see, there it is, our target come into view. It's really nice that there's that little pink box around it. Here comes our braking maneuver. And all this happened in the light, which was really convenient because I don't think I've done very many target landings in the light. Most of the time it's been in the darkness for just because. And not right now I'm actually doing like a countdown in my head going about 8 seconds or 5 seconds from when I looked at it on the map. And I hit the full throttle here. We're trying to kill our lateral speed. And I actually am like, okay, that looks, no, maybe not. And I can tell that I'm going to miss by probably about 1 kilometer. So in this case, I manually try to move ourselves towards the target. And what really made this difficult is I didn't rotate the ship. So I left its rotation the same. So if I just rotated the ship a little bit, it would have made choosing which direction to go a little bit easier, and I wouldn't have wasted a lot of fuel going back and forth like I'm just about to do here. I'm just about to correct what I just did. Here we go. And I'm like, nope, needs more. Need more power. And a little bit more. Just a little bit. There we go. And perfect. Look at that. Just right over the target. And basically from this point on, we won't be able to use the map. I do check it once and I go, wow, I'm dumb. So here we are. We're just about vertically right over our target. And I just killed our lateral velocity. As you can tell, with our retrograde vector, with respect to the surface, is right on the vertical mark. And I'm going to move up to here and just kind of kill off some of our vertical velocity now. I'm fairly close to the target, so I actually tip over to make it a little bit easier. Here's my, oh wow, I can't do anything with that view. So we actually can start seeing the parts rendering now. If you can, it's barely noticeable, but you'll see little black and white pixels kind of flickering back and forth down there. Now I'm just going to kill off my lateral velocity here. And we're going to ditch this stage and let it explode very, very soon. And then we'll land with our landing stage. And I'm just about to ditch it, I think, now. Come on. Come on. Here we go. There we go. Who's a good boy? Anyways, we're going to let this thing land and explode. It's going to hit the ground quite hard. I wonder if we'll actually hear it. I didn't have my headphones on. Oh yeah, cool. Yeah, when I originally recorded this, I didn't have my headphones on. Here we go. This is me not understanding that I should have just rotated the craft, and I learn it right about now. I go, let's turn to make this easier. So that I can, because what I want to do is get a little bit closer than I am. Here we go. Let's turn, make this easier, just aim the nose towards it. I want to land as close as we can, just so we don't have to drive the rover back and forth to the from the tank to the command module too very far, or so we don't have to fly with Jeb back and forth very far from refueling and dropping off our science, really. As you can tell, the surface is fairly flat here, so it's going to be a nice landing. I'm just kind of floating above the surface now, and we're going to go a little bit more, a little bit closer. I think we end up about 200 meters away, if I can remember correctly. by the time we get close to the ground. I think it's 150 on the screen. Yeah. So I'm just kind of floating us a little bit towards it. And so close that we lose our tooltip there to tell us how close we are. Ooh, turnover. Come on, Dom. You know how to do this. And we'll make a nice and fast landing. Oh my god, 7 meters per second. That was actually kind of a ballsy move on my half. So, we are landed on the moon. Next episode, I'm not really sure what we're doing, but that's going to be it. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time.